Okay, so like every other allegory or story that helps connect a deeper understanding by telling a story, by trying to make it more relatable through the story. So here we go. I have a story for how to help explain the concept of non-duality. The concept of there is no one doing the action, there is no doer. I'm going to have you imagine a car that is self-driving car, but you are unaware that it's a self-driving car. Now imagine that the car is set up like a student driver's car with a steering wheel and the gas and the brake on the passenger side, and that is where you're sitting. The car goes around from place to place, and you're turning the wheel, pushing the gas, slamming on the brakes, and occasionally jerking the wheel back and forth. The automatic drive is set and wants to go straight, but you suddenly feel you need to control. Ego claims ownership and jerks the wheel. What needs to be noted in this story is that every 15 minutes, you come down with a case of amnesia. So once you figure out how to steer, once you figure out how to flow with the current, you suddenly forget and start the unidentified cycle of jerking the wheel, slamming the brakes or gas as a reaction. It's when a fearful feeling or thought sets in, and the reaction to it is jerking of the wheel, taking the car off auto drive and adding more resistance. Auto drive is likened to the Holy Spirit, God within us, the one that is the force driving the vehicle. And it is the process of the passenger, you, coasting on auto drive. Something stirs, fear sets in, impatience, self-doubt, anxiety, all mind stories. Then the cycle continues, resisting flow and jerking the wheel. Jerking at the wheel, what do I mean by that? As in you're going against your intuitive nudge, your inner knowing, not being fully present in the now, hence caught in the stories of the mind that causes you to pull out of the flow, out of auto drive, the internal dialogue. Should I do this? Should I do that? I'm going straight. Why am I going straight? Hesitation, self-doubt, fear-based. When ultimately, humans are very much like our animal kingdom family. Yes. When you're low on the map of consciousness scale and you're in survival mode, then that's more of the animal instincts. Instincts to survive, eat or be eaten, living in fight or flight response. But what I'm referring to is the undeniable driving force in nature. The beauty and grace of birds flying in a perfect V formation. How a school of fish instinctively know how to swim together to ward off predators. How a snake sheds its skin like artwork. Or how a caterpillar instinctively knows in order to reach its purpose, it will undergo transformation. Not knowing those words, no ego to claim separate from the one, but an inner drive, an inner force that pushes the metamorphosis. Without ego and prior learned conditionings, the Holy Spirit that is in all living things drives them to perform the actions, also putting together that that's karma, that need to be performed to raise to its fullest potential in that incarnation and to pass the level of being a butterfly. That is the best way to help describe the realm of non-duality. And when I say that there is no action to claim, there is no doer of the action, that is what I'm referring to. Take that allegory, take the story of being on auto drive, unaware that we are on auto drive. And the internal dialogue that catches us, that grabs us from a present moment, and it makes us have fear. And it's like, why am this feels too straight, like I need to turn, I need to do this. You're just going back and forth and you have no direction. It's kind of like having a automobile without having the instructions on how to drive it. And that's what that amnesia breaks down to, is that we are asleep, we are unconscious, and these are all of those cycles that we create. And so you can see that the whole time that car has been on auto drive. And it's only when we decide something, it grabs and we claim action. And that is based off of our karma. It is based off our past lives. It is karmically related on the things that trigger us and make us claim an action. Identify what it is and see that it is flowing naturally. Now I want to hit some bullet points. I want to connect a little bit differently as a reminder. When I said that we are very much like our animal kingdom family, and then I referred to the survival mode, I'm going to refresh your memory on where that is on the map of consciousness right now. So this will be backwards, but it's okay, you get the idea. This is the map of consciousness, and this is where we incarnate from the animal realm, right here. Our God view is despising. Our life view is miserable. Our level is associated with shame. Calibrating at 20 on the scale, humiliation and elimination are part of the path. What I'd like to point out, as I've mentioned before, but we will continue to reconfirm and reiterate just so it is part of new understanding, that when we came into the human realm, we have left the animal kingdom. Yes, you have animal past lives. That is the whole point of the butterfly, actually passing the level of being a butterfly. Once you accomplish everything it means to be a butterfly, going through that process successfully, then you incarnate into another realm higher, but it's still in the animal kingdom. And you have multiple animal kingdom lives and multiple insect lives. It's very interesting how it really connects, but we're not going to get into that. That just gets a little bit more of a way of being enamored with it. Yeah. So what I am pointing out is that when we come into this incarnation and we're right there at that first point of the map of consciousness, also connect. Where does that word shame come in? Where it relates to sin, where it relates to humans and having some form of ego identification. Yes, in the Garden of Eden, that was the emotion, shameful, feeling naked, all of that. And that is a way of describing it. Yeah, it's another story to describe that state. So keeping in mind that that is something that carries on into our human incarnation, very much so, that we are in survival mode when we first get here, until we start to develop and understand and learn through our experience and develop more consciousness, we are stuck right there in that animal mode of survival, fight or flight response. That is right there, carrying over. And it needs to be noted because what I'm referring to within the Holy Spirit, the flow, the whole flow state of that auto drive within that allegory that I just mentioned of the self-driving car, is that it is always there. It's always been pushing. It is that force. And when I connected the animals, saying that we are very much like our animal kingdom family, I'm referring to that internal knowing, that pull that pushes into evolution, just like the caterpillar, knowing it needs to go through some kind of process, having complete faith, no ego to be separate, no prior conditioning saying you can't do this. Why are you putting yourself up in a web? Why are you making a cocoon? What is going to happen? Fear, yes. Fear of the unknown, the butterfly is that perfect example of transformation, of alchemy, a metamorphosis, because it does take that moment of where you could be fearful, going into that unknown, going into that deep darkness of a cocoon, which is the process. And it knows it. It knows it because it has no prior conditionings. And it allows that internal force, that drive, that Shakti, that everything that is making every single thing in the world go into its process. Doing this, doing that, it knows naturally what it needs to do. So yes, we can learn from just watching nature how it naturally goes through this process, how the climate changes, how the seasons change, understanding that every season that changes is beautiful. Even if we prefer one over the other, it is still a beautiful process. And it is the process of really seeing that too. Now, to repoint back into the story where I said you're not being fully present. Remembering that fully present, if the mind story is there, that is not being fully present. And it is within developing that understanding, that awareness, and also knowing that just because it's normal, just because everybody has it, does not mean it is the way. This is that radical non-duality. We're going straight into it. We are letting go of all those old conditionings, the stories that are telling you that you cannot do something. You do not have the ability. You do not have the resources, self-limitation that we have pretty much put on ourselves just through our lack of awareness of how it's all playing out. So a reminder of the truth of what a actual present moment awareness is. Taking in mind that the infinity symbol, it is the sideways 8, yes. Also connect that this is year 8. We are in karma year 8. But the thought cycle right here, this is the thought cycle, and it continues, and it is for infinity until one is aware right in that middle point of the infinity symbol, right where it connects. You breathe in, present moment, you are there. Something took you and you're back in that stream of thought. Train of thought, stream of thought, and you're back into it. Now, present moment is all there is and all there ever will be. How to understand that? No fear is existing right now. It's only a projection of the future, of what our story has created. Oh, but in 15 minutes, I need to go do something, or I have an appointment, or all of this stuff that has become our programming. Yes, because understand, to be in society and to do your spiritual work are not necessarily of the same connection. You kind of choose. Either you are really just going to live in that illusion, and there's a point where you have to decide either you're living in the illusion or you're seeking the truth. And that is where we're being put right into, by having to own our shadows, having to own the stuff that we've been able to choose if we own or not. But this is that process. This is how we get into that collective 5th level consciousness, is that there are the willing ones, the ones that feel the message, feel the call, understand the teaching. Who remembers when I went over wet wood and dry wood? This is how I was able to understand my twin flame relationship, and that we were living in different realities, because we both are doing sped up purification for 5 years, but we didn't share. And that was part of the process of not sharing. He was doing a lot more beyond stuff, and I'm taking care of more of the stuff in this earth realm of teaching, being able to explain it so that it's more relatable. Believe me, what my partner's coming out with, if you think I'm talking out there, yes, let me put that out there right now. There is so much that is going to come out, and it is being called to come out. It is the day and age that the truth comes out about our Creator, about who we are, about the truth of every single moment that we have lived in our life. I am 41 years old. All the 41 years, not even counting my past life. That's just my soul. I'm not even talking about my soul's journey. I am talking about just this incarnation's journey, which has been a trip. Yes, it's been everything. But you see that every single fear, moment, experience, sadness, death, everything that we experienced, every single form of something that the earth offers for us to experience, we have. And then this ultimate truth comes out. And that is what I am to bring, even though it won't connect and it won't click. It is the message of what enlightenment really means. And it is not something that is documented in such a way because non-duality is still not really out there. And it's not supposed to come out until now in this shift. So we put it out there in that radical sense. And as I said yesterday, to understand what I mean by radical non-duality, a mountain. Radical non-duality is taking you straight up the incline. Yes, burning your muscles. You're going to feel it all the way up. It is a straight up incline if you have that in your heart, and you can do that. You want to hit this peak. Now, for the ones that are stuck in their old conditionings, ego is pulling too hard. It is okay. It is part of the process. Everyone is in their process, but I am telling you and guiding you for the ones that can feel and want to go forward. New curriculum, remember? That's what New Earth is. We need a new curriculum. We need to understand how to expand, and we need to expand those teachings to get us there. Everything we endured, everything. Every happy moment, every sad moment, every blissful moment, every in-between, every moment of crying, every moment of expressing was all to show us that we are not the one doing the action. We had all of those moments, and we needed to find the balance within each one. We needed to see what the lesson was. Why is it happening? Why is it guiding? Everything is a perfect balancing system of an algorithm called karma. That means that there is no victims in the world, no accidents, no coincidences, no cause and effect outside of karma. Everything happening is going to happen. It's happening regardless of what your mind is claiming, whatever you think is happening. Opinions and judgments are the grand barrier because it is the characteristic of ego. Let that go. What do I mean by let that go? Let me explain the difference of a body in duality, which is what we are in right now. Yes, the people that are in 3rd level, 4th level, until you hit 5th level, you are in duality. So a body in duality is stiff, it's rigid, and it's programmed with conditionings. That is the story, the thing that leaves you, that makes you leave that present moment. When you feel that you're right there in that present moment, as you develop a real good understanding of what present moment awareness really is, no longer in that thought cycle, no longer thinking 2 seconds ahead or behind, no longer projecting any kind of fear or anxiety. That is thinking in the future. And then you're like, when does that present moment end? Right? Because it's an ongoing thing. And believe me, I'm only repeating words that I heard myself say as I'm standing. Now, I did say this story. I'm going to repeat it real quick, but as I was understanding what mind stories are and what present moment really is within the concept of mind stories and how the mind stories take us out of the present moment. So my example, I am cooking dinner. It is dinner time, but a song comes on. I am pulled right into that present moment, and I feel that pull. I feel that surge. I felt it all day, and it does not matter if I am supposed to cook dinner right now, because that is old conditioning and programming, and it's only what someone else is expecting. But are they expecting it? Or did I create a whole story also identifying he might get mad because he did that in the past? Maybe he had a bad day and he was really hungry and he needed something. There's always ways of connecting where that fear is stemming from. And you see, it's really just a replay of something that happened in the past, and the effect of it was not as desirable. So your mind starts to put it right when it's right in that process. Before it even happens, you are projecting an idea, putting it right in there that my partner's gonna be mad. Oh, another thing. I had chicken cooking on the grill outside, but I'm pulled into that present moment. And I stood there for 45 to an hour of not moving, drool coming out of my mouth. Now, this is extreme, but understand how you learn. Sometimes it requires going into that extreme to develop that understanding, just so I could see that it was my mind story that was making me stand there drooling, that I felt like I was going to leave that present moment if I swallowed more than what I needed to. I held every single sensation, every single pain sensation in. Yes, and this is the part I forgot to mention before, but literally, because I knew I was being called to do that, that was one of the tests. So that's why it was more extreme. It doesn't apply like that now. It's not every day that I need to do that. That was just the one extreme test to show me that standing there with my hand on my hip, going numb, feeling everything, knowing I'm standing with God, knowing I am being present with Him, having my partner go back and forth. My eyes are closed, but I do not respond. I do not react. He is trying to talk to me, but I am there in a trance, and I allow it, and I move past the pain, move past the mind story. Although the story was plain, the chicken is burning. The chicken's burning! But I stood there calm. And it wasn't until so much played out where the story really caught up, and I'm like, okay, I'm being present, but when do I leave this present moment? Yes, when do you leave the present moment? Am I going to stand here for the rest of my life? A story. Because ultimately, this is the difference of a body in duality and a body in non-duality. If you are in that present moment and a thought has taken you, oops, I left the stove on, oops, I left this on, no matter what it is, no matter how convincing it is, and it will be convincing, it will be so convincing, it will trigger at every condition. Fear, I left the stove on, it might catch on fire, I might catch the house on fire, all of that, just a story. And when I finally hit the point where I could not anymore, and I was coming to tears because of the feeling, the sensation, the numbness, everything, just the whole void of feeling of my senses. I was pushing my senses outwards, not entertaining them. But that was such a drastic push that my ego and everything, I busted out crying and broke down. And that's when I came out of it. That was the natural response, guys. Yes, it was. That was a body outside of a dualistic mind. It was not the mind story that took me out. When I heard the chicken is burning, I did not jump out of my present moment trance. Yet, I understood that I was being taught something within just that understanding, because there's no accidents. I don't have to fear that anything's going to catch on fire. I know my death already, and that gives me the liberation to come out and say all of this stuff that is going to trigger so many people that are not ready to hear it. But it's going to also help push that collective consciousness and give a new curriculum for the ones that are ready. And I have no fear whatsoever in my heart on any of that, because that is already identified to be an illusion. I am not fearful that someone's going to come look and hunt me down or anything like that. Just understand that, okay? So that is also the freedom of non-duality. But a body in duality is stiff and rigid, and it's full of programs and conditionings And a body outside of duality and non-duality is spontaneous. It's flowing. And that action of where I was standing, and when I left it, when I broke down, when it just hit that point, that was the natural, spontaneous action. I did not think, oh, I can't handle it anymore and I'm going to drop my arms. But yet I was so in that present moment that it finally hit the cusp of my threshold right there, right pushing right at the top. And my body fell to the ground from that whole experience, from that release. And that was the spontaneous action. And when I looked at the clock, it was 7:07. And that was confirming to me, yes, you stayed in the present moment. Yes, you have developed a deeper understanding of what we are trying to tell you, what mind stories are, and how fast they pull you out of that present moment. How fast they pull you out of that present moment. And if you're not being present, you are fearful or regretting or remorse of the past, and you are fearful and anxiety and projecting into the future. And that is what our minds do. And it's within our own understanding of developing that witness within ourselves to be able to see how we do that. So understand, when I say I'm in a flow state, everything is spontaneous. It's just spontaneous. I create, like the flow is there. I've been in the process of coming up with this allegory of how to connect a self-driving car with the Holy Spirit, the internal drive that is truly driving us. Within trying to make it more relatable, to understand the truth of what a realized being is, of what enlightenment is you don't claim action, you don't claim thought anymore. And to start implementing it in your daily life, and to start realizing just so very casually, because as I said, you don't claim thought or action. That means that whatever thought has arise, it is on your attractor field. And when it comes to the teachings, yes, your guidance is going to start clicking in if you have heard the words. Once that awareness is in there, even if it's in the subconscious and it's not bubbled up to consciousness yet, you have that understanding. That is your new curriculum, and you have to develop how to see when it's coming up in your life. No coincidence, nothing. Every single moment is pieced out like a video game. So we will go into that even deeper. But first, this is the allegory of how the Holy Spirit is the driving force, just like behind the animals that instinctively know how to create a V formation in the sky. There has been no training. They are allowing that natural flow because there is no ego that has developed when we get into the human incarnation. That separate identity, self, that is creating the suffering. And it is the process. There's nothing you can do to avoid that, but understand it is the process of first going through it, having every single emotion, every single reaction, every single trigger, then developing the witness. Realizing when it's starting with that witness, with that observer, you are there observing it, being able to now distinguish when a trigger, when something is forming, and you go into choice of reaction or response. That is that choice. That is after hearing what I am saying, you have that choice and it will present itself to you. And the most simple, basic way that you are not even able to identify it at first. And that's where we are building that consciousness now. We're building that awareness to start identifying, oh, I was right there having a moment, and then I thought, I need to go check Instagram, I need to go check social media, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this. You see? So I'm going to keep it short because I want this to be really just about the allegory. And I'll come back with more ways of explaining. But this is our seed for today that we are planting. Yes. a body and duality versus a body and non-duality. Connecting even more what liberation non-duality really brings. Because it is taking everything that we have identified in the world, just being in the world, just living for the amount of years that we've been here, for the amount of lifetimes that we've been here, and starting to piece together how that body really is just going into a spontaneous action. When you get that feeling when a song comes on, it's going into spontaneous action. It is not rigid. It has no conditionings. You let those conditionings go. You know what the conditionings are. You let them fade off. It is realized. You let go of those behavioral conditionings.